So for those of you who don't know, yesterday I participated in a Pokemon tournament. That was an experience. It was a bit of an experience. It's not my first card game competing in, but it is the first time I competed in Pokemon. Did I win? Okay. Okay, so my record was 1-4, so 1 win, 4 losses, which kind of stings to say, but it's about what I expected. So, let's talk about it. So here's the deck that I used. This is a Dragapult Charizard deck. I can go over like some of the more important pieces, I guess, and we can talk about the games that I actually played. The weird thing about it was the tournament was best of 1. So like I kind of expected it to be best of 3, but best of 1 was kind of rough, and I'll explain why later. But the deck I used has 2 boss monsters. That's going to be Dragapult EX over here and Charizard EX. The whole point, honestly, or the way I play it is Dragapult is going to be kind of my main attacker, with Charizard there to help with getting energy and also to kind of help me in the late game. So a couple things. One, Dracloak has a nice ability that allows you to look at the top 2 cards of your deck and add one of them to your hand. The other one goes to the bottom. So like that's going to be kind of like the quote unquote draw engine, getting Dreepy to evolve into Dracloak and just using that recon directive in order to get stuff in the hand. Dragapult is seen as one of the better cards in the format. Mainly because of that attack right there called Phantom Dive, which not only does 200 damage to the Pokemon that's in the active zone, but it also puts 6 damage counters on the opponent's bench in any way that I want. So I can pretty much throw 60 damage on the bench and do a chunk to whatever's in play. So combine that with like cards like Boss's Orders or Counter Casher to move things around. You can get some really good turns with multiple prizes, multiple KOs. Charizard has 2 things going for it. One, when it hits play, when you evolve Charmeleon or Charmander, we're using Rare Candy into Charizard, it immediately allows you to grab 3 fire energy and attach them to anything that's in play. And 2, its Burning Darkness attack does 180 plus an extra 30 for every prize card your opponent took. So if it's the end of the game, if you're getting to the end of the game, this attack can go up by 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, another 150, making it pretty strong and pretty much able to one-hit KO most things, if not all. So that's kind of it. Everything else is kind of just supporting me to get to that point. Get Dragapult out, get Charizard out to help out with stuff. Lucha puts damage counters on the bench. These guys are more support, but that's pretty much it. So in this tournament, right, I had obviously 5 matches. First match was against a pure Dragapult deck. So he didn't use Charizard or anything like that. It was just Dragapult, evolving Dragapult, moving damage counters, having Pokemon like a Monkey Dory, who can move damage off of one of your Pokemon and put it on something else, and just kind of doing that. And this is where the first of 1 really hurt me, I think, because there were a lot of games where I had bad hands. This isn't one of them, but like 2, 3, and 4 definitely. When I was able to get stuff to prepare for my next turn, however, it seemed like my opponent always had this card called Iono, which is this one right here, which forces both players to shuffle their hands and put the hand at the bottom of the deck. Shuffle your hand and put it at the bottom of your deck, and then draw cards equal to the amount of prizes I had. So whenever I was getting prepared to make a move, I would have to start over. So that definitely put me on the back foot while he was able to pretty much start building his board. There was very little that I could do in the meantime, because Dragapult is attacking not just my active, but it's also attacking my bench. So I'm putting some it was very tough for me to actually get any advantage, because everything was getting damaged at once. So that was just a bad game. He pretty much outplayed. Yeah, it was a pain. So yeah, that's my first loss. Second match was against a kind of a troll deck, honestly. Let me see if I can pull up the cards that he used in it. So Iron Thorns has an ability where if it's in the active, any Pokemon with a rule box loses its effect, unless it's a future Pokemon. So a rule box is, you'll see at the very bottom of Iron Thorn's box, or or a card, that there's a box down here that has a rule. Right now, that's only EX Pokemon, but essentially if it's an EX or V, or if it has some sort of weird number alerted behind its name, it's probably gonna have a rule box. Radiant Pokemon's like that as well, but essentially if it has a rule box, its ability's gone. So in this particular situation, for example, if Iron Thorns is in the active and I say for example, play Charizard EX, Charizard, when it hits the field, will allow me to get energy, but with Iron Thorns in play, I can't do that because its ability is lost. So that was number one of his bag of tricks. Number two was this Crustle, which has the ability to prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's EX. And if you look at my deck, my main attackers are both EX Pokemon. So this card here is just able to kind of just sit and shrug off attacks from EX Pokemon, and you can't do anything about it. And funnily enough, this guy that I played was friends with my buddy Apology, who was with me, and we went to the tournament together. So we were talking. He was actively telling me like, "Hey, this is the deck I use," because apparently he likes playing card games to just make people not play the game, which is kind of messed up. But if you have that ability, sure, whatever. But I went into that match with the game plan. If this guy is in play, if Crustle is in play, then my job is to move around it. Get it out the active, target things on the bench, stuff like that. And that was a fairly solid plan if he didn't have cards that would kind of stop me from doing that too. So for example, I had Dragapult out at one point and attacked into Crustle. Yes, Dragapult couldn't do damage to it, but the attack still went through, meaning I could still put damage counters on the bench. He had cards to heal. And I'm like, okay. When the Iron Thorns came out, I just took care of that one easily enough. So those were the prizes that I did take. But it just became so difficult to get rid of Crustle that I couldn't do anything. He just attacked until he won. There is one card in my deck that I do know that I'm missing. It's this guy, Chiyu. I do need to get one of those, so that's something I did learn. But it's one prize. It does decent damage on its own, especially after a knockout. And this would have been very helpful against the Crustle, because it's not an EX Pokemon, which means it can do damage to it. And on top of that, the Crustle is weak to fire. So if I had this, I would have been okay, but I didn't. So, it is what it is. But 2 losses. That is 2 losses now. Game number 3 was great, because if you don't know, there's a mechanic in Pokemon where if you draw your first hand of 7 and you don't have any basic Pokemon in your hand, you can show your opponent your hand to pretty much mulligan. So shuffle your hand into your deck and draw another hand of 7. But whenever you mulligan, your opponent gets to draw next card. I had to mulligan and get to my opponent twice. Twice, you hear me? My opponent got 2 extra cards off of me. But the funny part about this was I actually won this battle. So this was me against Eevee. Eevee likes a few things. First of all, Eevee EX here, which can evolve in that guy, which has a very strong attack, but also can evolve into any of the EX Eevee forms. So it likes Sylveon EX, which has an attack that A, lessens the amount of damage that it takes, Magical Charm, and B, allows you to shuffle 2 Pokemon off the bench into your opponent's deck. So that's cool. It likes this one. This Flareon hits pretty hard. That's kind of the main purpose of Flareon. It hits very hard, but also can search out energy too. So that's a thing. And also this one, which can heal. So Eevee are very versatile decks because just packing in the Eevee forms that you kind of want, but those are the ones that I know that most decks use. But here's the thing about this Eevee deck and my own. There is another card that exists that is called Lily's Clefairy that this deck runs, which makes it so that all dragon Pokemon have a weakness to Psychic. If you notice, all dragon Pokemon, they don't have a weakness. But with Clefairy, they now have a Psychic weakness. And Sylveon is a major card in this deck. So, so there's that. So that puts the deck, that gives the deck an advantage against Dragapult. And 2, Leafeon is grass. Charizard is weak to grass in this game. Well, this Charizard, because it's a dark type instead of a fire type. So I had to maneuver around the pieces that he had on the board, but I was able to snipe out Clefairy by drawing it into the active zone and knocking it out in a hit, because the Clefairy only had 190 HP, so it's very easy to take care of. And it's kind of moving around. So I was able to actually win this match, even if I got dead draws twice before I could actually play the game. So there's my win. The fourth game was against this. And it's not something you're going to see very often, but it was against Palafin. And this was actually a very close battle. I did end up losing it, but that makes with loss number 4. And I'm trying to remember if there's anything I did in particular that was wrong. This deck really just wanted to switch Pokemon out, because if you notice, for example, Palafin EX can't attack if he uses Giga Impact, which is 250 for 1. He had another Palafin, which was this one, so not one that had the same drawbacks. But he also used, in Zoroark, he used that for draw. He also wound up using Pecharunt to switch Pokemon in and out. A dark Pokemon that had a very low retreat cost, push that into the active and swap it out for Palafin or whatever. Kept doing that, and it went down to like 5 to 6 prizes. So it was a very close match, but I still lost. The last match was against this jerk, Goldango. A couple of things about Goldango. One, its coin bonus ability gives you the ability to draw a card. If it's in the active spot, you draw 2 instead of 1. And my opponent got 3 of them in play very quickly. So he was just drawing out just kept drawing. Number 2, Make It Rain is an attack that requires only 1 steel energy, but it does 50 damage for every energy you discard. And he had a lot of ways of getting energy into the hand, not just drawing them, but like things like Superior Energy Pro and all that stuff means that pretty much at any point he could just drop anything I played at any time, because he had the energy at all times to do it. It sucked. And so obviously match 3 and then match 4, match 5 were just games where I just had terrible opening hands. Match 3, I was able to make it work, thankfully, but 4 or 5, it definitely caused me to set up a lot slower than normal, and that, or those, aside from probably some misplays that were here and there because I am still learning this game, those, it cost me the game, especially the fact that this just, it was first to 1. Time rules or something like that, I don't know what's going on. Like I said, it was my first time playing, but that's how that went. 1 for fun experience. I would definitely do it again. I plan on going back at some point when I get the chance. But it was fun. While I definitely understand that there's a lot that I need to learn, and also just like getting over, how I say, I guess nervousness when I compete, I had fun. It was definitely a good time.